Welcome everybody to another video here at Keith's Corner. So in my neck of the woods, I like to start the day off with some brush practice. The first thing that I do is just get a feel for the strokes, and you can just start with something really simple like this. Okay, so that's just like a windshield wiper movement. It's been called that since people were calling these things fly swatters. So that was a long time ago, but this is the classic way that brushes were taught. Okay, and to do that movement, you have to pick your elbow up some. Like picking the elbow up, going across, and then dropping it. Alright, and if you keep doing that, and you go faster and faster, you're going to see that it starts to take on a more circular shape. And if I add a little bit of wrist motion and allow it to be this sort of paintbrush effect, if you will, you get a really nice sound. Okay, so the other hand, I'm holding with a different grip. This one is obviously kind of a traditional grip with the wrist turned more over, so it's almost facing up, especially when I get to here. Alright, so it's different than, it's slightly different than our normal traditional grip. Then here I'm using, I don't know what you would call this grip, but this is what it looks like from the top. It doesn't look like that, it looks more like that. You can see that which way the brush is facing. And so it allows me to get this kind of loose thing going on here, that paintbrush thing, where I let the weight of the brush and this sort of little fulcrum effect here with this little hoop here. And that's the kind of loose feeling we want on the brushes. So you can warm up just doing kind of stuff like this. Just I'm even using a little bit of an open-close kind of a thing here. Like open, close, open, close, open, close. You can do that here too. Open, close. Alright. That will give you a lot of control with your brushes. And that's what it takes to get good sound. A lot of the things we do for drums is to condition our hands, to give our hands not so much strength. It's more conditioning to be able to use the muscles that we have. It's not like we're using them to lift. It's more an endurance thing. So we have to build the stamina in order to play for long periods of time. Okay, so the next thing that we want to take a look at is using the brushes together. And I can just use that same back and forth thing going on. And if we make this 1, then this is going to be 2. And then this is 3, and this is 4. So there's nothing saying that you have to do it the way I'm showing you. There's other ways. I practice other ways too, just because I like to have as many many techniques under my belt as possible. Sometimes something you're using may not work for a particular situation, so I like to have some backup. But for the most part, I really feel comfortable with this technique. It's not exactly the prescribed technique that a lot of people are using today. There's much more of a modern approach, but I'm showing you the, if you'll permit me to use a funny term, it's the Papa Joe way, the Papa Joe Jones way. And I think that for me, I like the way it sounds. For other people, you know, that they're really into this more of a Jeff Hamilton kind of thing, they tend to, you know, criticize the sound that I'm trying to get, or that other people are getting with this, which in hindsight they tend to kind of backpedal and say, well, it doesn't matter, whatever you like to do sounds good, and if it sounds good, then it sounds good. I like to go with that kind of understanding too. I think, you know, if you like what you're doing, other people are going to like it too. But if you're doing something that other people are doing because they say it's the right way and you don't like the way it sounds or you don't like the way it feels, then guess what? It's not going to sound good. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is know that this is also 1 and that this is 2 right here. And we're getting sort of this little touch here, and then more of a what's called a fop, I guess. And you just want to slap it down on the middle here. And I have my head's snares off, so I get that kind of sound with this. And if you have another brush on there, it dampens it a little bit, so you get this kind of. So I think that's a nice sound, and I think that when you need that kind of sound, there it is. Other ways of playing tend to be a little too quiet. This tends to have that 2 and 4 that you need. So when you start going, right? Right? And you speed it up. And so when I'm going for 2 and 4 to get the accent, I'm kind of giving it a little push this way, and I'm overlapping the right over the left and getting this sort of. I'm even kind of hitting the brushes at the same time. Now, I've never seen anybody teach it this way or show it that way, but this is, in my opinion, what happens naturally. You know? I mean, the byproduct right there is this sort of upbeat eighth note kind of sound you're getting. You can hear that in there. And that's because the brush is changing its position all the time. It's, the little nuances of the brush are creating the sound that we want. It's filling in all the gaps. And when we start adding in upbeats and things like that, it starts sounding like, Papa Joe Jones or Joe Morello or whatever. you know. So what I'm doing there is I'm just coming in trying to play upbeat accents. And so if you go 1, 2, 3, and 4, all right, that'll be like the first one that you want to check out there. It's the one that I think sounds really good. You can do, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're just getting that. But that's all it is. It's just, and I'm getting 2 accents, all right? I'm getting the, it's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, okay? And the 2 and 4 are accented because that's what keeps that backbeat in there. If I didn't have a hi-hat going, and I don't have a hi-hat going anyway, but typically I'd have a hi-hat going and it would be playing on 2 and 4 also, but I don't need the hi-hat. I can just play on the snare and still get a nice backbeat feel. I think a lot of times drummers feel like they have to use a hi-hat in there. I think